Good morning. I'm coming to you from a hotel room in Paris. I apologize for my just woken up, still trying to wake up appearance, and the horrible lighting in the hotel room. But I wanted to, I wanted to do a video right now. I didn't want to wait. I felt kind of motivated. I just read a post by a friend of mine online who's going through some hard time. And I actually have a lot of you, a lot of friends that are going through a tough time right now. Things are pretty rough out there. And I talk a lot about change. I've been talking a lot about change lately on the blog because a lot of change is happening out there, and a lot of change is only going to continue to happen, and change is happening faster, and the degree of change is getting bigger. So things aren't going to slow down at all. And excuse me, we talk about that and the need for change, and the fact that I quite oftentimes talk about the fact that hey, we should have let the big banks fail. We need to quit trying to resist the change and let the change happen. And I think that we have 4 more years of this, and I think that we have to let things, I don't know if hit bottom is the right term, but we need to let some things that are broken break all the way, and we need to build something new. I'm not talking about getting rid of capitalism and all that kind of stuff. I'm talking about letting capitalism do its thing. The consequences of that we don't, and I don't, oftentimes talk about, which is what a lot of you are feeling, which is you're out of work. And it's not easy to get a job right now. And I want people to know that I don't talk about these things lightly. I don't talk about these things, that happens to other people. That doesn't happen to me. Because it did happen to me. Many years ago, was it almost about 10 years ago, at the ripe old age of 29, I decided to go into business for myself. I'd always wanted to go into business, and at 29 I was just certain if I didn't do it then, it wasn't going to happen. Because after I turned 30 I'd be too old or something. I was young and foolish. And so I bought a skateboard shop. Sounds like a really good idea. But I had all of my professional experience up until that point was in retail and managing retail and running retail, and I was really good at it, actually. I enjoyed a lot of aspects about retail. I liked interacting with the customers. I was really good at merchandising, at ordering, at taking care of customers. I enjoyed those things. And I was actually really good at the marketing aspect of the jobs too, getting customers to come in, promoting word of mouth, doing events, doing those kind of things. And so I'd been managing retail, small and large operations for quite a while before that. So I figured I knew it all. I figured I knew how to run a retail business. And I did know how to run a retail business. I didn't know how to own a retail business. But I bought the skate shop, built up its sales to sales larger than it had ever been. The store was doing great from the floor, from outside, from how things. But what wasn't doing well was the back end, the books. I'm horrible at books. My wife does our finances. I am not a numbers guy. You put an Excel spreadsheet in front of me and my brain turns to mush. I sometimes joke, but not. I joke about it, but it's serious. Is that I think I'm probably the only MBA student who ever graduated and still don't know how to functionally use Excel. It's a feat I'm not necessarily proud of, but it's just not my thing. It's not what I'm good at, and so I haven't really focused on it. But this became a real problem when I owned the skate shop. So I was bringing in sales, but we weren't really making a lot of money. And all the money we were making was going right back into the store to continue to build it up. And it was okay. We did all right. We owned a home in Vegas, and and we were actually doing better on our home than we were on the business. This was during the big housing boom in Vegas, and after about 3 years of owning the shop, I knew that if I was going to, kind of get things stable, I needed to get bigger, which meant open another location, or open a retail, online retail version of the store, or do something like that, which was going to be capital intensive, which was going to mean I was going to need more money. And the challenge was that we didn't want to live in Vegas anymore. It's not where we wanted to raise our family, and I wasn't sure of the payoff. So I wasn't sure that the investment, and especially the time investment that it was going to take to get there, was going to be worth it. And so we decided to sell. Our house sold first. This was during the housing boom. We didn't even have to put it on the market. We just mentioned it to a friend, and boom, the house was sold for our asking price and everything. Sale of the shop took a lot longer. I wanted to sell it to someone who I knew was going to take care of it and continue to run it the way that the customers wanted it run. And that sale took about 6 months. And the person I wanted to sell it to had a hard time getting some financing, and I had to end up selling it for less. We ended up doing an inventory sale, and I had to keep a bunch of the inventory and sell it on eBay and do all this other crazy stuff. Basically, it wasn't enough to get out of our debts, and we actually ended up having to use the sale of the house to pay off all of our debts. Came really close to having to file for bankruptcy. I didn't, and I'm actually proud of that fact that I didn't have to do that. And we ended up moving back in with my in-laws. I say back in, but moving in with my in-laws. We moved back to Idaho, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I was 32 by this point, the father of 3 children, and homeless, basically, unemployed, and my only experience was in retail. Something we don't talk a lot about, and I don't read a lot about when I've been reading these stories, is the pressure that's put on guys. We talk a lot in society about the pressure put on women and the pressure put on youth. We don't talk a lot about the pressure put on men, and especially husbands and fathers. And right or wrong, the expectation in society is that men provide for the family. That's your job. Your main job in life is to provide for your family. Put a roof over their head, put food on the table. Taking care of the kids, that's all the women's stuff. I'm joking. But that's kind of the perception in society, right? And so as a man, if you're not able to do that, it's probably about the most demoralizing thing that can happen. And it's happening to a lot of guys out there right now. And I'm not saying that it's easier for women who lose jobs, and it's definitely not easier for a lot of those single moms. And I watched my mom go through that as well. It's tough. And I guess, at this point I wanted everyone to realize that, when I talk about these changes, I know exactly what I'm talking about. I know how hard it is to make these changes. So I don't want to end this video on a depressing note, so I'll talk about how I got from living with my in-laws in Idaho to being in a hotel room in Paris. And this isn't, some self-help tip. This isn't, do what I did and everything will be great, because you're going to have to do something different than what I did. But hopefully there's some applicable lessons in what I did. So I kind of took a step back. I didn't want to just jump into anything. I didn't want to just go get a job. I did end up getting a job. I ended up getting a job at a grocery store, working in the produce department, because I needed to get some money in. But I knew that was just temporary. And so what I did was I stepped back and I said, well, what do I want to be when I grow up? And I looked through a lot of different options. I looked at doing teaching students with disabilities, like myself who have ADD and dyslexia and things like that, and decided there was too much red tape and bureaucracy, and I wouldn't be able to do well in the job because of that. I had no doubt I could teach the students, but I didn't think I could do all the red tape. And so I looked at, well, what am I good at? And I looked at all my previous jobs, and I was good with customers. I was good at marketing. When I owned the skate shop, I've mentioned this before and other things, my best marketing tool was MySpace. As far as I know, I am the first business with an account on MySpace. But it was out of necessity. I couldn't get the website back from the previous owner, and huge problems, and so I finally had a MySpace page because all the kids I wanted to talk to were on MySpace. But I was good at the marketing. We did a lot of events. That's why the sales of the shop were so strong, and probably why we even lasted the 3 years that we lasted, was because I was good at the marketing. So I said, all right, let's see what it takes to get into marketing. My undergraduate degree was in communications, more in the communication theory, anthropology stuff, but you know all of that, if you've been reading my blog at all. And so I said, well, PR, there's a PR program through the communication school. That's really close to marketing. So I went and I audited an undergraduate class. It was a night class, and I did pretty well in it. I learned that when you're going back to school to actually learn, you do better than when you're going to school and focusing just on grades. Wish I'd learned that the first time around. But so I ended up doing an internship while I was auditing an undergraduate class, and I did so well in the class that the teacher, who was an adjunct professor, she was also the VP at a small PR agency, she offered me another internship, a slightly paid internship. I use paid very loosely, and did really well there. But I learned something. I hate media relations. Hate it. I hate sending press releases. I hate calling reporters to see if they got. I hate media relations, which is ironic since I'm now back at a PR agency, but I don't do media relations. And I'm not saying media relations isn't important, by the way. It's usually valuable, and I really admire the people that can do it well. I'm not one of those people. But while I was there, I heard a webinar, and on that webinar they were talking about how, in theory, companies can use things like blogs and RSS feeds to reach their company directly. This was probably close to 7 years ago. 7 years ago. And I was like, that's it. My undergraduate degree, I'd studied computer-mediated communications, so things like chat rooms and GeoCities. And when I owned the skate shop, MySpace was the best marketing tool I had. That and doing events, and I was like, this is it. This is the future. But being an early adopter 6 years ago was pretty rough. Being an early adopter in Boise, Idaho was even rougher. More rough. And so I decided to go that route. I found a little grassroots marketing agency that didn't think I was crazy. It's probably because they were themselves crazy. And basically worked there for about 6 months for free. They had a eat what you kill policy, and I'm not very good at sales. So, and like I said, this was a while ago. So I didn't eat much those first 6 months. I finally started selling. Had a couple really good months and was made a junior partner. And after, I don't remember how long was I there now. After that point, I think I was there about another year and a half, and I left. Had a kind of fallout with the founders, and said, you guys aren't going to run the business the right way, and there were other things I wanted to do, so I left. During this time, I decided to go back and get my MBA, because I knew that if I wanted to be successful in consulting and in marketing, I needed more business skills. I needed to be able to talk to CFOs and CEOs and CMOs, not just not just be able to put up blogs and do that kind of stuff. So I'd gone back to school and was looking at doing a startup. Was trying to do a startup with a friend of mine. We weren't having a whole lot of success. We were having mild success, but wasn't going great. And I was doing consulting on the side to bring money in, and that was going okay. And I was doing some speaking, and at one of these speaking gigs, I heard someone from HP heard me and started talking to me about coming and doing some consulting for them. So I was kind of going along that route and thought that would be really cool. And they ended up offering me a job instead. I took it. And about that time, I started working with a local VC venture capital firm because I was doing a lot of stuff with startups. I'd started up a startup blog, tech blog there in Boise. But that was kind of the beginning for me. I'd finally broken through, and was at HP, and then obviously now Wagner Edstrom, and now I'm in Europe. And if I go back and I look at it, 7 years ago, I was a skate shop owner in Vegas. In the matter of about 3 years, I kind of turned around, and it took a while to make a career change like that, a radical career change. It went pretty quick. Now that I look back on it, I'm like, man, those last 6 years kind of flew by. But 4 of those years have been really, really good. Almost 2 years at HP, and then a little over 2 years now at Wagner. And the 2 years before that were rough, though. Everyone thought I was crazy. But I think, my recommendations, and I'm sorry this has gone on forever, but my recommendation to you, if you're out there and you're trying to figure, what's next, what do I want to be when I grow up, how am I going to provide for my family or myself, I need a change. My recommendation is to figure out what are you really good at. What is that skill, whatever it is that you're really good at. What do you enjoy doing? What do you absolutely love doing? What would you get up every day and do even if you weren't getting paid? Because you might have to. I had to do it for 6 months before I got paid. But what would you do even if you weren't getting paid? And then the trick is finding something that'll pay you to do the combination of those two things. Now, the one last step, it's not as easy as that, because the one last step is that you need to do a gap analysis. You need to look and you need to say, what am I really good at? But whoever's going to pay you to do that, there's probably some skills you don't have. Because if you did have those skills, you'd be doing it today. You wouldn't be looking for change. And this is where I think a lot of people miss, is there are some skills or there's some gap in why you can't do the combination of what you're really good at and what you love doing. You can probably find a job doing something you're good at, even in our current market. You can probably find a job eventually, but if you take the extra effort and you let the time, it's going to take time. But what are those skills that you don't have to work in that field? For me, it was, I went back and I audited a PR class, and then I did internships. I was 30-something, and I was starting over as an intern. And then eventually I went back and got my MBA, because I knew, look, there's still more I don't know, and to keep going. And, that led to me being able to work with a venture capital firm and get a job at HP, and that kind of rounded everything out. But I don't stop there. I'm constantly asking myself, what am I really good at? Because that changes over time. And so does, what am I really passionate about? That changes over time. So I'm constantly asking myself, what am I good at? What am I passionate about? And what am I going to be able to continue to get paid for? Because social media isn't going to pay me forever. If I just sat around and banked on that, I'll be out of a job eventually. Because honestly, most people can do what I do if they really want to. It's no secret anymore. 6-7 years ago, it was a secret. It was tough. It's not so hard anymore. So what's that thing that's going to pay me next, that I'm really passionate about, that I would do even if I wasn't getting paid, and I'm really good at? And what are the skills that I need? I'm always reading. It's why I blog. It's why I do this stuff, because it's part of my learning process. It's part of how I gain the skills. It's going to keep me getting paid to do what I love to do. So I hope that was helpful. I've rambled on. This is much longer than my normal 2-minute video, but I hope in this case it's okay. And for those of you, my friends out there that are struggling right now, it'll be okay. It'll eventually be okay. Step back. Realize that there are more important things in life than money, than stuff. And providing for your family, providing for yourself, providing for your future doesn't just mean getting a job. But I personally think I'm really optimistic. I think we're going to get through on the other side of this, and things are going to be better. And I think people that are constantly learning, are constantly getting an education, and I don't mean a degree, I just mean constantly educating yourselves, you're going to be fine. I think this is a good opportunity for people to reset and, kind of become nimble. I think we need to be more nimble as a nation. And everyone needs to. And we need to be constant learners. But I need to go down and get some hotel breakfast while it's left, and then get off to the office. Go get paid to do what I love to do. Have a good one and hang in there. Bye.